The bridge of the starship Horizon grew deathly quiet as the viewscreen flickered with tense static. Captain Miriam Lewis gripped the armrests of her command chair, her knuckles whitening. After decades of dreaming about first contact with intelligent alien life, she steeled herself for whatever was about to happen. The static gave way to an image, a hulking creature with metallic gray skin and 6 eyes peering back at them. Its mouth opened, emitting a series of guttural sounds that the universal translator struggled to decipher. "We are the V-Cubber. You have entered sovereign space," it rumbled in a computerized approximation. Miriam nodded slowly. "This is Captain Miriam Lewis of the Earthship Horizon. We travel in peace and mean no harm. We wish to open a dialogue between our species." The V-Cubber's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Your coming has been foreseen. We are bound by the cosmic covenant to share the truth." Miriam's heart skipped a beat. The truth about what? The alien leaned in, its metallic visage filling the screen. "In 5 centuries' rotation around your star, your homeworld will be consumed by the Armageddon cloud, an entropic force beyond your comprehension. All life will be erased from your planet Earth. This is the immutable future we have divined." A deathly hush fell over the Horizon's bridge crew. Miriam's mouth went dry with shock and dread. That's impossible. You must be mistaken." "We are never mistaken," growled the V-Cubber. 5 centuries is all your species has remaining before oblivion. We are bound to share this dire prediction as part of the covenant. Make peace with your eventual demise." And with that chilling proclamation, the viewscreen went blank. The bridge was plunged into a horrified silence, with only the low hum of the engines providing any sound. Miriam's head swam with the terrible implications of what she had just heard. 500 years was enough time for dozens of generations of humans to live out their entire lives, only to be wiped from existence by an unstoppable force. She slammed her fist on the arm console. "No! I refuse to just accept this prediction lying down. Humanity will fight to survive, no matter what it takes." Her defiance rang through the bridge cabin. Fingers flew over consoles, calculations raced, and theories formed. If they only had half a millennium, they would have to conceive of a plan more ambitious than anything their species had ever attempted. Chapter 2. Mourning Our Fate. The news of humanity's prophesied doom at the hands of the Armageddon cloud spread across Earth like a shockwave. At first there was an eerie sense of disbelief and denial. Surely the alien prognosticators had to be mistaken or lying. This had to be some sort of twisted interstellar prank. But as the grim prediction's authenticity became undeniable, panic and despair set in globally. The fragile thread that held human civilization together began unraveling at an exponential rate. On the streets, riots and looting broke out as many lost all sense of civic order and the social fabric disintegrated. In the halls of government, angry mobs demanded answers and action that their bewildered leaders could not provide. Even the full military might of the world's superpowers felt feeble against an extinction-level event centuries away. The world's stock exchanges went into freefall as the human economy collapsed virtually overnight. Decades' worth of financial progress and markets were wiped out in a cosmic instant as "why bother" became the prevailing attitude. Centuries of human scientific and technological advancement began to lose all meaning. At the Basilica of St. Peter in Rome, grief-stricken crowds overflowed the sacred plaza as the pontiff delivered a solemn message to all of Earth's faithful. "My children," the Pope called out in a wavering voice, "these are surely the end times. Foretold in Scripture, we must renew our faith and find peace, for our journey among the stars is over before it had a chance to truly begin." All around the world, similar scenes played out as the overwhelming majority of humanity gave in to nihilism and hedonism in the face of its own inevitable apocalypse. The news cycle was consumed with doomsaying pundits scrutinizing each new depressing data point. However, a resilient few refused to surrender to the cosmic death sentence so easily. In fortified research labs and universities around the globe, a coalition of scientists, engineers, and space exploration luminaries began triangulating on a solution more ambitious than anything humanity had ever conceived. Screw lying down and accepting our extinction. I say we show these alien doomsayers what humanity is made of, Dr. Zara Bakur exclaimed defiantly to her research fellows. If we only have 5 centuries, then we better start work on the goddamn Ark to save the human race. The fiery young physicist's seditious words rang out in hushed laboratories and secure video conferences around the world. Forbidden theories and hypotheses began taking shape as the defiant handful arranged meetings with world leaders still shocked into indecision. "We have no other choice," Zara proclaimed with the zeal of the converted. "If this cloud is really coming for Earth in 500 years, our only path to survive lies among the stars." Chapter 3. The Exodus Plan. In the weeks after the Vaikuber's dire prophecy, a shared sense of purpose began emerging from the cluster of physics labs and engineering think tanks. Dr. Zara Bakur's rallying cry, to defy extinction through ambition, had reverberated around the globe and united the disparate teams. Now they hatched a plan so breathtakingly audacious it matched the scale of the existential threat they fought against. "We have to evacuate Earth, all of humanity," Zara declared bluntly at the first official summit held in London's heavily fortified Unified Strategic Command bunker. The assembled politicians and military leaders shifted uncomfortably at the outrageous proposal. British Prime Minister Derek Canning scowled skeptically. "Evacuate to where exactly, Doctor? This Armageddon cloud is coming to consume the entire bloody planet in 5 centuries. Zara rose from her chair and activated a holographic star chart, displaying the nearest potentially habitable exoplanets. "Out there, Prime Minister, we'll build ships, enormous, multi-generational colony arcs, capable of carrying millions upon millions of human colonists across the vastness of space." The gathered dignitaries gawked in bewildered silence. Finally, Chinese President Xiaoping found her voice. "You can't be serious. Even with the full resources of our nations, constructing spacecraft that massive is mechanically and economically unfeasible, not to mention the yet unknown technologies required for cryogenics, terraforming, and interstellar travel." A smug grin crept across Zara's face. "Well, you're right about one thing. It will require every last resource our unified planet can muster. But my team has already begun developing the needed innovations. Engineering arcs to harbor human civilization for centuries is our only chance." Russian General Vlad Kovac slammed his fist on the desk. "And how many generations will be condemned to an entire lifetime trapped aboard these arcs before reaching anywhere habitable? It's a pipe dream. 3, maybe 4 generations tops if we play this right," Zara shot back confidently. And would you really condemn our entire species to utter extinction just because the journey seems inconvenient? An uneasy silence fell over the secure bunker as the men and women of power digested the sheer magnitude of the proposed undertaking. Evacuating the population of an entire world across the vast cosmic gulf was a scale of ambition unprecedented in human history. Finally, American President McKinley spoke in a hushed tone. What choice do we have but to try? If these aliens are correct, staying on Earth guarantees our demise in 500 years. But taking the audacious leap, humanity has been deemed unready for, that's our only hope of cheating oblivion. One by one, the other leaders reluctantly nodded in agreement. The gargantuan scope of the Exodus plan was terrifying, but the alternative was the extinction of the human species. Zara stifled a triumphant smile as the full backing of the global leadership coalesced behind her vision. Humanity would not go gently into oblivion, after all, not if she had anything to say about it. Chapter 4. Building the Ark. In the years immediately following the Exodus plan's approval, the full industrial and economic might of a newly united human civilization was directed towards a single, overriding goal: constructing the species' final ark against permanent extinction. Nation-states dissolved boundaries as borderlines became irrelevant. All human labor and resources were amalgamated into a perpetual mass construction effort across every corner of the globe. Whether digging gargantuan shipyards in the Siberian tundra or strip mining entire mountain ranges for minerals, no project was too gargantuan in scale. Dr. Zara Bakur marveled at the staggering worldwide coordination and breakneck pace achieved once humanity's ultimate survival stakes were laid bare. She watched proudly as blueprints detailing revolutionary technologies like nuclear saltwater propulsion and multi-generational cryostasis sprouted into reality at construction sites with record speed. "Ma'am, the first 2 ark hulls are ready for osmium-iridium plating," a muddied construction foreman named Yariv declared as he joined Zara's observation convoy. She smirked knowingly. The first 2 seeds of the coming exodus were well underway. "Good man, Yariv. Any estimate on when we'll have the full half-dozen primary hulls ready to begin attaching biodome habitats?" "If we can maintain this ridiculous pace," Yariv chuckled wearily. "Call it 18 months, maybe less if the orbital mining operation keeps exceeding targets." Zara reached down and plucked a hardened rivet from the ground before letting it drop from her fingertips. "Every day buys us more time to get this right. Because once those first arks set sail, we only get one shot at saving our species." Across the world, the unprecedented shipbuilding effort was underway at a ferocious pace. Entire cities of humans found purpose in constructing, outfitting, and manning the growing armada of starbound arks. In the protected dry lands of Western Australia, rows of gargantuan cryostasis chambers were assembled by an army of engineers overseen by an old Russian ex-cosmonaut named Katya Viskov. "We'll need thousands of these ready to go online before the first of the arks takes flight," she explained gruffly, as her rickety electric cart rolled between the giant cylindrical tanks. "Anyone who can't fit aboard the biodome habitats will have to ride out the centuries in stasis." On a remote plateau nestled in the Andes, a young agricultural genius named Amara Suarez roamed over tilled soil samples, meticulously noting conditions. "These will have to sustain our crops for the entire journey." but I think we've found the perfect bioengineered polyspores for maximum growth cycles. It was this level of fanatical thoroughness, replicated at every stage of Ark construction, that humanity embraced wholeheartedly. After generations spent imagining futures of reckless mismanagement and excess, people of all nations were now united in building an interstellar lifeboat of truly titanic proportions. The future of the species quite literally depended on it. "You did it, Zara," a beaming President McKinley commented as he joined the physicist at her observation post overlooking the first completed Ark habitats. "You rallied our entire world to face this crisis head-on. Now we just need to finish the job." She nodded solemnly, never allowing pride to outweigh the incalculable stakes. "We'll get it done, Mr. President. We have to." Chapter 5. The Long Journey. The day of the Exodus finally arrived amid equal parts celebration and trepidation. Millions of humans, the first of many generations to ride the interstellar arcs, embraced loved ones and said farewells before boarding the gigantic habitat domes. Dr. Zara Bakur stood flanked by Ark commanders like James Hendricks as the biodome loading ramps extended skyward. She clutched her granddaughter Maya's tiny hand, trying to etch every aspect of the child's face into her memories. "You be good for your parents up there, okay?" Zara said, her voice wavering with emotion she struggled to contain. "And know that every day, all of us down here will be working to make your new home among the stars as welcoming as possible." 8-year-old Maya nodded solemnly. "I'll make you proud, Grandma. We'll find a new Earth out there." The tight embrace between grandmother and grandchild stood as a microcosm for millions of heartfelt goodbyes playing out across the various launch sites. Zara watched through misty eyes as Maya was swept up the ramp towards the Ark Horizon's main dome, carrying the hope and resilience of the entire human race. "They're the lucky ones in a way," muttered Commander Hendricks, the steely-eyed veteran who would guide the Ark's initial decades of space travel. "Those kids will be awake for hardly any of this perilous slog through the interstellar void." Zara nodded grimly, already computing the myriad challenges awaiting the skeleton crews riding awake for the majority of the journey. From navigating solar flares and asteroid fields to repairing critical system malfunctions, one misstep could jeopardize the entire endeavor. But it was the psychological toll of being confined in the oblong Ark habitat for decades, with only a small crew that represented the gravest threat. Estrangement from Earth, perpetual insomnia, dietary boredom, and mental fatigue could easily unravel even the most heroically disciplined spacefarers over time. As the crescendo of rocket thrusters built beneath them, Zara instinctively grabbed James's hand and laced her fingers through his. A silent moment passed between the two like-minded pioneers, bracing for the journey's monumental first steps. "We'll monitor from down here and resupply every transporter cycle," Zara shouted over the thunderous roar. "If anything goes wrong up there, you shout." James managed a wry grin. "Shout into the literal void of space for decades at a time? You know us old space jocks. We live for that sort of thing." With a deafening rumble, the 6 gargantuan arcs lit their nuclear pulse drives and rose on pillars of searing plasma exhaust from their terrestrial launch pads. The hulking sky arcs rose like enormous metal tic-tac candies towards the heavens, carrying the dreams and perseverance of humanity's continued existence as a species. For Zara, it was an almost unbearably poignant moment, watching decades of work and sacrifice lift off from Earth. As the flames disappeared into the stratosphere, she silently wished Godspeed to the tens of thousands departing humanity's cradle in search of an entirely new home. Little did she know just how thoroughly their perseverance would be tested over the dark centuries of cold, lonely travel that awaited. Chapter 6. A Glimmer of Hope. The centuries crawled by in the cold void between stars. Generations came and went aboard the arks, with each subsequent crew becoming more detached from the earth of their ancestors' memories. On the bridge of the Ark horizon, a perpetual vigil held the survivors focused on scanning for that elusive Goldilocks planet, one with the perfect conditions to harbor human life when the arks grew too frail to continue their journey. So far, every candidate world surveyed proved inhospitable in one way or another. "Trajectory update, Karan?" asked Aureliana, the grizzled current commander who had assumed the mantle from the heroic James Hendricks 2 generations prior. "We've been adrift too long in this forsaken gamma cluster." Karan Sidhu, the young but brilliant operational engineer, didn't look up from his databanks as his fingers flew across the holographic projection controls. "Aye, ma'am. I've run the astrometrics 100 times. Unless we want to jump blind to the next cluster without stopping for resupply and repairs, we've only got about 2 years' worth of reactor fuel and critical system life reserves remaining." Aureliana frowned deeply. 2 years might as well be 2 minutes on the cosmic scale they operated. "Let's have it then, lad. What are our options?" With a heavy sigh, Karan gestured up towards the main view screen, activating a 3D star chart of the unexplored anomalous region of space directly along their current trajectory. A smattering of worlds and celestial bodies orbited in elliptical rings around a particularly violent-looking blue supergiant. According to our long-range scans, buried deep inside this riptide of gamma radiation and rogue comets is, well, our best shot at finding a new home suitable for human settlement and eventual terraforming. A single iron-nickel hydro-oxygen planet right in the supergiant's liquid water circumference. Janice Shaw, the Ark's weather analyst, squinted quizzically at the holographic projection. "But even if it beats the 1,000,000-to-1 odds against being habitable, just look at the chaos surrounding it. You're talking about navigating anarchic asteroid fields, dodging solar flares the size of Jupiter, and forcing our way through unknown hostile alien territories just to get a look at this golden world." Aureliana tapped her finger against her grizzled chin thoughtfully. "In other words, doing precisely what 5 generations of our ancestors signed up for, pushing forward, no matter how daunting the odds, right to the threshold of the abyss itself. Doesn't sound so bad when you put it like that, eh?" The deck officers exchanged uneasy glances, but said nothing, as Aureliana rose from her command chair, her weary bones crackling with the effort. "You're right, Karan. We've no choice but to set a course for this system, even if it means punching through whatever ugly alien armadas await us on the far side." She turned to address her bridge crew fully. "But let's be clear, we came too far and sacrificed too much over too many lifetimes to turn back now. Not when our possible new home is dead ahead, just waiting for human perseverance to overcome one final challenge." A low, morale-boosting murmur of determination spread through the Ark's compact bridge. Aureliana nodded curtly, hearkening back to the unshakable resolve that first launched their ancestors away from their dying Earth home nearly 4 centuries earlier. "Warm up the primary sublights and shield emitters. We go ahead full towards that anomaly, brazen as you like. She fixed her crew with a fiery glare. If any aliens are obtuse enough to try keeping the human race from its new Genesis world, they'll soon learn firsthand why our ancestors called it the Armageddon cloud in the first place. Gathering her composure, Janice activated the intercom system, allowing her voice to echo through every corridor of the 5 remaining arcs. All hands, all stations, prepare for sublight acceleration and possible combat maneuvers. By order of the Arc Command, our journey enters its final, most hazardous leg. Her proclamation rippled through the kilometer-long arcs, rousing the multi-generational human cargo still hibernating in stasis while mobilizing the skeleton crews. Uncomprehending children scrambled down the corridors to secure stations, while gnarled old salt technicians braced for their lives' greatest tests. It was the moment 5 impossible lifetimes had been building towards. After escaping a doomed Earth and defying the vast reaches of deep space against all odds, the human exodus to find a new world to call their own had finally come to a head. All that remained was to summon the same unbreakable perseverance their forebears had clung to through the endless void, and shatter whatever or whoever stood between them and their deliverance at last. Chapter 7. The Final Struggle. The human arc fleet's advance towards the anomalous star system quickly became an arduous gauntlet of hazards that tested their fortitude at every turn. First came the radiation storms, searing ribbons of charged ion particles hot enough to peel away entire sections of hull plating, if not for the experimental Langmuir shield arrays. The arcs bobbed and weaved through the turbulence like ironclad leviathans, braving a cosmic hurricane. "Langmuir fields at maximum dispersion," grunted Karan, sweat beading on his brow from the physical strain of choreographing the defensive screens while monitoring countless other vital systems. "We're holding together, for now." Aureliana watched the tumultuous forces of the supergiant star's outer corona lash at her bridge view screen. What's our approach vector look like on the other side of this hellscape? Janice squinted at her tactical holograms, manipulating the astrometrics projections with deft hand gestures. "If we can muster enough fuel reserves for a final downstream burn, we'll emerge right in the liquid water zone where that iron-nickel rock ball is orbiting." The commander grunted, white knuckle gripping her chair's armrests. "That's our new world beachhead right there. I can feel it in these century-old bones." No sooner were the words out of Aureliana's mouth than a series of proximity alerts blared from every console on the bridge. Swarms of ominous crimson contacts emerged on the combat screens amid the cosmic interference. Multiple bogey clusters registered across the EM bands. "Range 2.5 million kilometers and closing rapidly," cried the sensor technician. "They're cutting across our trajectory towards the planet." "Those better not be comets or loose debris at a time like this," grumbled Aureliana grimly. A series of alien craft resolving in visual range answered that question definitively. Chunky ovoid hulls bristling with ominous weapon emplacements rotated into attack vectors pointed squarely at the incoming human fleet. "Those don't look exactly friendly, if you catch my drift," Janice stated woodenly. "I'm picking up multiple vectors of unknown energy signatures charging towards us with clear hostile intent." Aureliana narrowed her eyes and keyed the general frequency on an open channel. "This is Arc Command. Aureliana hailing unidentified vessels. We are a weary armada of human beings in search of a new home to resettle. Our journey has been long and fraught, with enough peril, without the complication of what appears to be threatening military spacecraft." The open channel crackled with an ominous silence for several excruciating moments. Then, a resonant, multi-layered sound, akin to a whale's call, washed over the bridge speakers, interspersed with grating static. The translators took a moment to articulate the alien tongue into synthesized words. Aggressive outsider species encroaching. Territory of Felicialaria. Prime system perimeters will not be broached under any circumstances. Your exodus is terminated. With that, the Crimson hostiles bolted toward the human arcs on intercept courses at terrifying velocities, glowing ballistic payload bays already leading their targets. Welp! Aureliana swallowed hard, turning back to her bridge officers. I suppose that settles whether these aliens aim to give us a warm welcome or not. Recommendations? Karan looked up from the targeting systems he was furiously arming. Only one option, ma'am. What our ancestors primed us for all those centuries ago. To fight for a chance at a new genesis and our very survival as a species, if need be. The commander nodded grimly and switched on the ship-wide PA for the final time. All personnel, this is your ARC command. Hostile xenospecies have engaged us with clear intent to deny our passage towards that habitable world in the liquid water zone. That world is our new home, and we cannot be deterred. Her jaw tightened with resolve. Activate all main laser batteries and tactical railgun arrays. Our journey ends today, one way or the other. As the ancient human arcs swiveled to engage their unknown alien adversaries, 5 generations worth of history and perseverance, against all odds, galvanized their crews for one final, climactic struggle. On the bridge of the horizon, Karan glanced up at the blips surrounding his projected firing arcs and simply muttered 2 words: cry havoc. Chapter 8. Humanity Endures. The orbital battlefield surrounding the human arc fleet and their hard-won new homeworld was a hellish cyclone of fire and twisted metal. Janice punched up a tactical display, revealing the depleted state of their dwindling arsenal after the climactic battle with the xenophobic Felicialaria war fleets. We're down to single-digit loads on all batteries, Commander, and 4 of the main railgun capacitors are shot. Aureliana's face was etched with the weariness of centuries as she took in the hard-fought victory over their alien aggressors. Countless human lives had been lost in the struggle to reach this promised world, lives that represented entire family lineages snuffed out before they could help found humanity's new Genesis civilization. "What's our contingency for getting boots on that rock?" she grunted, the distant lavender terra of their new world looming below like a beckoning sanctuary. Karan shook his head soberly. Even with the heavy losses taken, we have enough ranking officers and terraforming experts to muster a few drop shuttles. But the arcs are in no shape for an attempted full ground landing after that firestorm. Aureliana steadied herself against her command console, the centuries finally etched into every aching bone and sinew. She suddenly appeared far older and more frail than a venerated leader has any right to seem. Very well then. Signal all craft still able to undock from their bays. We're going in piecemeal down to that little oasis before the last of our reserves gives out. Anyone with an operational survival rating is coded green for drop shuttle deployment. The winded arcs creaked and groaned as they initiated final undocking procedures and bore the last of their human cargo towards the fertile surface world below. Row after row of teardrop-shaped landers streamed through the exosphere on pillars of retro-thrust fire, destined for those breathable valleys and fertile equatorial bands. In one of the cramped personnel bays awaiting deployment, Karan slapped a new charge into his plasma caster and turned to find young Akori, the bright-eyed teenage daughter of the ship's fallen botanists. A single tear traced down her soot-stained cheek. "It's going to be all right, Kori," Karan reassured her, clasping a comforting hand on her narrow shoulder. "Your parents, all of our people who gave everything to reach this new home, they didn't die in vain. We made it to the other side." Akori looked up at him, an unmistakable current of hope flickering in her hazel eyes. "I know, Mr. Karan, and now it's up to the rest of us to build a new civilization for mankind on this world, no matter how challenging it might seem, after everything we've already endured." The young prodigy flashed a defiant smile that spoke of quintessential human perseverance far beyond her years. "It'll be hard as granite at first, I'm sure, but I have a feeling this new Earth will be in good hands." In the many decades that followed, Akori's prescient words rang truer than any of the original founding settlers could have fathomed. There were hardships and sacrifices aplenty. Many nights spent huddled around meager forestry fires, wondering if the monumental effort of the Exodus had all been for naught. More than once, mankind's fragile toehold on Sarasea 9 nearly slipped away entirely as the brutal Terra resisted all attempts at being tamed for human habitation at first. But through the unbreakable human spirit of perseverance and ingenuity, they ultimately bent the once barren world firmly to their needs. Bustling agrarian communities sprouted across the fertile plains and deltas, fed by hardy hybrid crops. Great cities of towering plastisteel spires pierced the azure skies, tribute to the audacious vision of those first courageous generations. Over time, the nightmares of extinction by cosmic intervention plaguing Commander Aureliana and her forebears faded with each passing year of Sarasea 9's terraforming successes. In their place came dreams of a bright new future, one taking shape across an entire reborn world, made habitable by human beings who had quite literally crossed the infinite celestial expanse to claim it as theirs. In triumph or tragedy, it was a victory of the indomitable human spirit over all obstacles. A 500-year journey that had begun with a dire prophecy of doom now saw its ultimate vindication. And on the nights when that great blue lavender orb hung pregnant with hope and promise in the Saracen night skies, every man, woman, and child would stare up through windows or beneath thatched canopies to admire its radiant glow. For this was no longer a desolate, lifeless rock, nor the beckoning sanctuary it first appeared as through blood-streaked viewports of battleship gun cameras. This, at long last, was the new Earth, home soil of an undying human race, and humanity had endured.